Honeymoon? What a joke. My mother needs a free caregiver, so pack your bags and go wait on her, my husband told me the day after our wedding. In response, I gave him some news that left him stunned right where he stood. Catherine had always considered herself a practical, forward-thinking woman. By 30, she had earned her degree in economics, built a career as a financial advisor at one of the largest investment banks in Manhattan, and bought her own one-bedroom condo right in the heart of Midtown. Her friends envied her independence, and her colleagues respected her for her professionalism and strong character. The only thing missing from her ideal life was a partner by her side. But all that changed 7 months ago. When Alex Thompson burst into her life, they met in a rather mundane way at a gym. Catherine frequented 3 times a week to stay in shape. Alex was using the machine next to her and gallantly helped her figure out a piece of equipment she wasn't used to. She found him interesting right away. He was handsome, cultured, and could hold a conversation on any topic. He was 32 years old, a manager at a sales company, single, and most importantly, ready for a serious relationship. Alex made no secret of the fact that he was tired of fleeting romances and was looking for a woman to start a family with. That won Catherine over. She had also been dreaming of a stable relationship for a long time, but most men her age were intimidated by her success and financial independence. With Alex, everything was different. He genuinely admired her accomplishments. He took an interest in her work, supported her professional projects, and courted her beautifully and tastefully, taking her to Broadway shows, fine restaurants, and on weekend getaways to the Catskills. Catherine slowly melted under the pressure of his charm and attention. 4 months into their relationship, Alex introduced her to his mother. Rose Miller received her future daughter-in-law rather coldly, though politely. The 5-8-year-old woman gave the impression of being strict but fair. She was a retired math teacher who lived alone in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, on the outskirts of the city. Alex explained his mother's indifference by saying she was still grieving the death of his father 5 years earlier. My mom is very wary of new people in my life, he explained to Catherine after that lukewarm meeting. But when she gets to know you better, she'll surely love you. You're wonderful. Catherine wasn't offended. She understood that for an older woman, meeting her son's new partner was always stressful. Besides, Rose looked quite unwell. She was pale, coughed often, and complained of high blood pressure and back pain. Alex cared for his mother touchingly, visiting her regularly and helping with groceries and medicine. After 6 months of dating, Alex proposed. It happened in a romantic setting, on a rooftop restaurant with a view of the Manhattan skyline. By candlelight and under the stars, Catherine was ready for this moment and accepted without hesitation. The ring was modest but elegant, just her style. I'm so happy, she confessed to her fiancé, looking at the jewel on her finger. Honestly, I was starting to doubt I would ever meet my soulmate. And I always knew I would find you, Alex replied tenderly, kissing her hand. We're going to be so happy. You'll see. They decided to have the wedding in 2 months. Catherine dove headfirst into the pleasant preparations. Choosing the dress, finding a venue for the reception, and creating the guest list. Alex supported all her decisions, only occasionally making a minor correction. For instance, he insisted on a modest reception with only their closest family and friends. Why the unnecessary expense, he argued. We're better off spending that money on our honeymoon. I'm already looking at packages to Hawaii. The weather is beautiful there now, and the prices aren't through the roof yet. Catherine fully supported the idea of a simple wedding. She didn't care for large celebrations and preferred to spend money on travel. To her, Alex seemed like the ideal man, practical, attentive, and understanding. Even his mother gradually softened and began to treat her daughter-in-law more warmly. A month before the wedding, Catherine went to the shop for her final dress fitting. She had chosen a simple yet elegant design, an ivory satin gown without excessive embellishments or frills. In the mirror, she saw a happy woman, ready to start a new life. Alex came to pick her up from the shop to take her home after the fitting. Catherine asked him to wait in the car. Seeing the dress before the wedding is considered bad luck. She changed back into her everyday clothes and walked out of the shop, dress bag in hand. Next to the car, Alex was on the phone. Catherine didn't mean to eavesdrop, but her fiancé's voice was quite loud. Yes, everything is going according to plan, he was saying to someone. Soon, Mom will have a 2-4-hour helper. No more paying for those expensive caregivers. Catherine froze. What helper was he talking about? And what did caregivers have to do with anything? Rose, of course, didn't seem to be in the best of health, but not to the point of needing to hire medical staff. Alex saw his fiancée and quickly ended the call. He turned around with a smile. Well, beautiful, all set? You'll only show me the dress on the wedding day? Catherine cautiously approached her fiancé. I accidentally overheard a piece of your conversation. You were talking about a helper for your mother and caregivers. Did something happen? Why didn't you tell me? Alex's face contorted for a moment into a strange grimace, but he quickly composed himself and laughed. Oh, that. I was talking to a friend about his mother. She's going through a difficult recovery after surgery, so they have to hire nurses. It's incredibly expensive, and I was advising him to ask his niece, who studied nursing, to take care of her. The explanation sounded logical, and Catherine relaxed. Alex helped her into the car, and they drove to her place, but a strange sense of unease lingered with her until nightfall. A few days later, another strange incident occurred. Catherine went into a pharmacy to buy vitamins and happened to see Rose at the counter. Her mother-in-law was buying medications in large quantities, boxes of pills, packages of bandages, even a pair of crutches. However, she moved quite nimbly, without any support. Catherine wanted to go over and say hello, but when Rose saw her, she quickly paid and left the pharmacy without even a greeting. The daughter-in-law found it odd, but decided not to make a big deal of it. Perhaps her mother-in-law was simply embarrassed about buying medical supplies or didn't want to discuss her health problems. 2 weeks before the ceremony, the first serious conflict in her relationship with Alex arose. Catherine proposed inviting her parents, who lived in Chicago, to the wedding. Why the unnecessary expense? The groom dismissed. They have to travel from so far away. Hotels in New York are expensive. We'll go visit them later. We'll make a trip of it and celebrate separately. But it's my wedding, Catherine said, indignant. How can I get married without my parents? Oh, come on. Alex said, even a little irritated. You're a grown, independent woman. What's with these childish whims? We're saving on the wedding to spend the money on our honeymoon and our future life together. The argument nearly turned into a major blowout. Catherine was ready to call off the wedding, but in the end, Alex relented, albeit with an attitude as if he were doing her a huge favor. Her parents agreed to come, even though travel was difficult for her mother due to a heart condition. A week before the wedding, a second event occurred that put Catherine on high alert for good. She was sitting in a coffee shop near work, waiting for a friend with whom she planned to discuss the final party preparations. An unfamiliar woman, in her late 30s, thin, with short hair and dressed simply, walked into the shop. She looked around and walked decisively to Catherine's table. Excuse me, are you Catherine? The stranger asked, sitting down uninvited. Yes. And who are you? Catherine asked, surprised. My name is Lucy Nash. I'm Alex's ex-wife. Catherine's breath caught in her throat. Alex had never mentioned being married before. On the contrary, he always said he hadn't had any serious relationships before meeting her. I'm sorry, but you must be mistaken, Catherine said, bewildered. Alex never told me about any previous marriage. Of course he didn't, Lucy smiled bitterly. There are a lot of things he doesn't tell you. I found out about your wedding by chance. An acquaintance of mine works at the same bank as you. I decided to come and warn you. Warn me about what? Catherine felt her hands go cold. Listen. Lucy looked her straight in the eye and said quietly. Be careful with Rose. She's an expert at playing sick. What do you mean? Catherine leaned forward. I was married to Alex for 3 years, Lucy began. The first 6 months were wonderful. Then his mother got sick, or rather, started acting sick. At first, it was little things. My head hurts, my blood pressure is up. Then it got more serious. I threw out my back, I have chest pains. Alex insisted I move in with them to take care of his mother. And you agreed? Catherine whispered. I was young and foolish. I thought it would be temporary, but temporary became permanent. I became their housemaid. I cleaned, cooked, did the laundry, and cared for my supposedly sick mother-in-law. Meanwhile, she was perfectly fine when she thought I wasn't looking. Why did you get divorced? Catherine already suspected the answer. I couldn't take it. After 3 years, I realized I was just being used. I filed for divorce. Alex didn't resist, which means he was already looking for a new candidate. Lucy stood up from the table and placed a hand on Catherine's shoulder. I don't want to ruin your life, but I can't stay silent either. That man is incapable of real love. He doesn't need a wife, he needs a servant for his mother. Think carefully before you tie your life to his. After Lucy left, Catherine sat in the coffee shop for a long time, trying to process the information. On the one hand, the ex-wife could be lying out of jealousy or a desire for revenge. On the other, her story explained many of the strange things in Alex and his mother's behavior. That evening, Catherine decided to ask her fiancé directly about his previous marriage. "Alex, I need to clear something up," she said when they met at her place. "Have you ever been married?" Alex's face turned to stone. "Where did you get such a ridiculous idea?" He replied coldly. "I spoke to a woman today who introduced herself as your ex-wife, Lucy Nash." "I have no idea who that is," Alex cut her off. "Probably some crazy person." "Catherine, are you really going to believe a stranger over me?" He feigned indignation so sincerely that Catherine hesitated. Maybe this Lucy person really was unstable or had mistaken him for someone else. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm just really nervous about the wedding. I guess that's why all sorts of nonsense is going through my head." "Of course you're nervous," Alex hugged her and kissed her forehead. "It's normal. But don't let outsiders plant doubts in your mind. We love each other, and that's the main thing." On the day of the wedding, Catherine woke up with a slight sense of unease she couldn't explain. Was it really just pre-wedding jitters? She tried not to think about the strange coincidences of the past few weeks and to focus on the celebration ahead. The ceremony at City Hall was emotional and beautiful. Catherine, in her elegant ivory dress, felt like a real princess. Alex looked very handsome in his new suit. When they exchanged rings, a sincere tenderness shone in his eyes, and all of Catherine's doubts vanished. About 20 people attended the reception, the closest friends and family from both sides. Catherine's parents, despite the difficult journey from Chicago, looked happy. Rose also attended the party, and surprisingly, looked much better than usual. The mother-in-law was dressed in a beautiful burgundy suit, with her hair nicely done and even wearing makeup. She moved freely around the room, chatted with guests, and even slow danced with her son. There was no trace of illness or weakness. But it was during the dance that the third alarming event occurred. Rose approached Catherine while she was resting at the table after another dance with her husband. "Well, dear, you're officially a member of our family now," the mother-in-law said with a smile that seemed somewhat insincere to Catherine. "Thank you, Rose. I'm very happy. You know, I have to ask you a favor." The mother-in-law lowered her voice and leaned in. "After the honeymoon, come see me more often. I live alone. I get bored sometimes, and my health has been acting up lately." "Of course. I'll come visit," Catherine agreed. "But what exactly is bothering you? Maybe you should see a doctor." "What good are those doctors going to do?" Rose gestured dismissively. "My back hurts, my blood pressure spikes, and I get sharp pains in my heart. Sometimes I can't even get out of bed, and other times I don't even have the strength to get to the supermarket. Thank goodness my Alex helps me." "But of course." Catherine looked in surprise at her mother-in-law, who half an hour earlier had been dancing energetically and seemed to be in high spirits. Now she had suddenly turned into a decrepit old woman complaining about her health. "And what do the doctors say?" Catherine asked. "What are they going to say?" Rose brushed it off. "It's age-related, they say to take pills. But what good are those pills? What I need is someone by my side to keep an eye on me, to help me with things around the house. But caregivers are so expensive, I can't afford them." At that moment, Alex approached them. "What are you ladies talking about?" he asked cheerfully. "Oh, just telling Catherine about my ailments," his mother replied. "I was just saying that when you get back from your trip, I'll be calling her often for help. I hope my daughter-in-law won't turn her back on a poor, sick old woman." "Of course she won't," Alex answered quickly, not letting Catherine get a word in. "Right, honey? We're a family now, we have to help each other." Catherine nodded, but a strange unease settled inside her. Lucy Nash's words echoed in her head with renewed force. "Be careful with Rose, she's an expert at playing sick." The rest of the reception continued in the usual festive atmosphere, but Catherine could no longer completely relax. She watched her mother-in-law closely and noticed strange details. One moment, Rose would complain of back pain, but a minute later, she would bend down to tie a shoelace. Or she would talk about her weakness, but then carry heavy bags of gifts herself. "I guess she really does have a chronic illness," Catherine thought. "There are periods of flare-ups and remissions. Maybe I've become too suspicious after talking to that woman." By the end of the evening, fatigue took its toll, and Catherine stopped analyzing her mother-in-law's behavior. The next day, their honeymoon in Hawaii awaited them. 2 weeks of sun, beach, and romance. All the oddities and suspicions could be sorted out later, in a calm environment. As the guests began to leave, the newlyweds said goodbye to their families. Rose hugged her daughter-in-law tightly. "Be very happy, my children. And after you've rested, be sure to come see me. I'll be waiting." Catherine's parents were leaving the next day, so the farewell was especially emotional. "Be happy, sweetheart," her mother said, kissing Catherine goodbye. "Alex seems like a good man. The main thing is that you understand and respect each other." "Of course," Catherine promised. "As soon as we get back from our trip, we'll come visit you right away." As she changed out of her wedding dress, Catherine looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was tired, but her eyes shone with happiness. She had officially become the wife of the man she loved. All the doubts and anxieties were behind her. Alex hugged her from behind and kissed her neck. "Well, is Mrs. Thompson ready for her new life?" "Ready," Catherine smiled, leaning back against her husband's chest. "I can't wait for our trip tomorrow." "When was the last time we were at the ocean?" "You'll find out soon," Alex replied mysteriously. "I have a surprise for you." As she went to sleep on her first night of married life, Catherine felt absolutely happy. The next day, her honeymoon would begin, and after that, a long life together. Everything would be fine. But the next morning, a surprise from her brand new husband awaited her, one that would shatter all her rosy plans and dreams in an instant. Catherine woke up the day after the wedding feeling lethargic and pleasantly tired. The sun was already high in the sky. The clock read 9:30 a.m. Beside her, Alex snored peacefully, his arms spread across the bed. The first day of married life, Catherine smiled and stretched. Today, they had to pack for Hawaii. The plane left at 7 p.m., so they had plenty of time to not feel rushed. She got up quietly so as not to wake her husband and went to make breakfast. In the kitchen, her eyes fell on two suitcases that were already packed from the night before. One held her things, the other Alex's. The thought of spending 2 weeks relaxing by the sea filled her soul with joy. She could already picture herself strolling along the boardwalk, sunbathing on the beach, and having dinner in restaurants with ocean views. Alex woke up to the aroma of coffee and appeared in the kitchen, fully dressed. Catherine found this strange. He usually liked to lounge around the house in comfortable clothes, especially on weekends. "Good morning, wife," he said. But his voice sounded a bit tense, lacking its usual warmth. "Good morning, husband," Catherine replied playfully, offering him a cup of coffee. "Ready for the honeymoon?" Alex didn't answer right away. He sat down at the table, slowly drank his coffee, and stared out the window for a long time. Catherine noticed a muscle in his cheek twitching nervously. "Listen, Catherine," he finally said without looking at his wife. "I have to tell you something." "What happened?" Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. Her husband's tone did not bode well. Alex stood up from the table and paced the kitchen. Then he stopped abruptly and turned to his wife. "Honeymoon? What a joke. My mother needs a free caregiver, so pack your bags and go wait on her." Catherine stood frozen, the coffee cup in her hands. For a few seconds, she couldn't believe she had heard those words. Then, slowly, she set the cup on the table and stood up. "Repeat that," she said in a low voice. "I think I misheard you." "You heard me perfectly," Alex snapped. "My mother felt very ill yesterday after the reception. She needs constant care. But you don't have any medical training. But you do have a lot of free time, you spend all day sitting in an office counting money." "I work at a bank," Catherine said, indignant. "I have a responsible position." "Big deal, a bank," Alex scoffed. "You push papers from one side of a desk to the other. And here we have a human being asking for help. It's your husband's own mother. Are you really that sorry to dedicate your time to a family duty?" Catherine looked at her husband and didn't recognize him. Where was the attentive, loving Alex who admired her work and supported her in everything? Before her stood a stranger with cold eyes and an arrogant expression. "And the honeymoon?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Forget the honeymoon," Alex declared. "My mother is more important than your whims. You'll go live with her, take care of her, and help with the house. It's your duty as a wife and a daughter-in-law." Catherine felt a wave of fury rise within her. The doubts and suspicions from the day before clicked into place, forming a clear picture. Lucy's words rang in her head with new intensity. "I see," she said with icy calm. "And if I refuse?" "You won't refuse," Alex replied smugly. "You're a decent woman. Besides, where would you go? We're a family now. We share our daily life, and our money is joint." "Joint money," Catherine repeated. A steely edge appeared in her voice that Alex didn't notice. "Of course. You were the one who suggested opening a joint account. It's very convenient for the family budget." Catherine nodded slowly and walked over to her laptop. Alex watched her, puzzled. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Checking our joint family budget," Catherine replied calmly as she logged into the bank's system. For a few minutes, she silently reviewed the account transactions. What she saw exceeded her worst expectations. 3 days ago, the day before the wedding, a large sum of money had been withdrawn from their joint account, a sum equivalent to the cost of the trip to Hawaii. "Alex," she called to her husband without turning around. "Come here." "What now?" He grumbled, annoyed, but walked over to the computer. "Explain this transaction." Catherine pointed to the screen. "Refund from the travel agency to your personal card. On Friday, the day before our wedding." Alex's face turned pale. That's because I cancelled the booking," he stammered. "My mother got sick, and I realized I couldn't leave her alone." "You cancelled our honeymoon, paid for from our joint account, the day before the wedding," Catherine said slowly, "and transferred the money to your personal account without telling me." "I was going to tell you," Alex began to justify himself. "When?" Catherine interrupted. "This morning, after declaring that I must become your mother's servant?" She stood up and looked her husband directly in the eyes. "You know what the most interesting part is? That was money I deposited into the joint account. My personal savings that I was setting aside for our trip together. You stole my money and spent it on your own affairs." "Don't be ridiculous," Alex burst out. "What theft? We're a family." "A family," Catherine smiled ironically. "And family members routinely deceive each other, hide the cancellation of their honeymoon, and demand one become their free servant?" Alex opened his mouth to reply, but Catherine didn't let him speak. "You know what, dearest husband? In response, I'm going to give you some news that will leave you stunned right where you stand. Tomorrow, I'm filing for divorce and demanding you return all of my money, which you appropriated without my consent." Alex actually staggered and grabbed the back of a chair. "No, you can't do that," he whispered. "We just got married yesterday. What will people say?" "I don't give a damn what people say," Catherine replied coldly. "People aren't going to live my life for me, and they aren't going to endure humiliation in my place." She went to the bedroom and started taking Alex's things out of his suitcase and putting them into bags. "What are you doing?" Her bewildered husband followed her. "Packing your bags. You're getting out of my condo today." "Catherine, wait," Alex tried to grab her arm. "Let's talk calmly. Maybe I was too harsh about my mother." "Too harsh?" Catherine pulled away and turned to him. "You called me a free caregiver. You demanded I quit my job and serve your mother. You stole my money. And you think that's just too harsh?" "I didn't steal anything." Alex fumed. "It was our money." "Our money?" Catherine pulled a folder of documents from her desk drawer. "Here are the statements from my personal account. Here are the transfers to the joint account. All the funds are mine. And where is your contribution to the family budget?" Alex fell silent, studying the documents. He had nothing to say. Indeed, all the large sums in the joint account had been transferred by Catherine. "And now, explain one more thing," she continued, picking up Alex's phone, which he had left in the bedroom. "Your phone's password. My birth date. How touching, right? You have no right to snoop through my phone." Alex lunged for it. "Yes, I do. I'm your legal wife. At least for now." Catherine pushed him away and began to browse the messages. What she found put the final pieces of the puzzle in place. The messages with his mother dated back a month. "Alex, how's it going with the girlfriend? Did she agree to the simple wedding?" "Yes, Mom. Everything's going according to plan. I told her we're saving for the honeymoon." "Very smart. And did you tell her about my illnesses?" "Just hints for now. After the wedding, I'll announce that you need constant care." "Perfect. Finally, I won't have to hire anyone to clean, and I won't have to cook either. The important thing is that she doesn't get stubborn. But I suppose she'll have no way out. She has a nice condo. We'll sell it later." "Sell it? And where will we live?" "In your 2-bedroom apartment. We'll fit. And we'll rent her condo out. We'll make a good income." The rest of the conversation continued in the same vein. They discussed how to tame the young wife, how to force her to quit her job. They had even drawn up a rough schedule of her household chores. Catherine silently handed the phone to Alex. After reading a couple of messages, he turned even paler. This isn't what you think," he started to justify himself. "And what is it?" Catherine asked icily. "Not a plan to turn me into your domestic slave? Not a plan to sell my condo? Not a discussion about how to deceive me? My mother really is sick," Alex exclaimed. "She needs help. At the wedding yesterday, she danced better than I did. And last week at the pharmacy, she was running around like a young woman." "You were following her?" Alex asked, surprised. "I ran into her by chance." Your sick mother was buying crutches and bandages. It seems she was preparing for her role as a decrepit old woman. Alex realized he had been caught. His shoulders slumped, and he sat down heavily on the bed. Listen, Catherine, he began in a different tone. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. But Mom lives alone, it's hard for her. And we have everything: jobs, a home. Can't we help a family member? You can help, Catherine agreed. Visit her, buy her food and medicine, invite her over. But you don't become a servant and give up your own life. Okay, Alex tried another tactic. Let's find a middle ground. You won't go to Mom's every day, just on weekends. And you won't quit your job, of course. Catherine shook her head. It's too late for middle ground. You've shown your true colors, and your plans with your mother were very different. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Catherine looked through the peephole and saw Rose with a large bag in her hands. Who is it? Alex asked. Your mother. Looks like she's come to supervise the execution of the plan. Catherine opened the door. Rose entered the apartment with the air of an owner. Hello, dear, she said in a tone that brooked no argument. Alex told me how I'm feeling. I felt awful after the reception yesterday. Despite her words, the mother-in-law seemed quite cheerful and full of energy. She walked into the living room, gave the furniture an appraising look, and took some papers out of her bag. Here, I've prepared a schedule for you, she announced, handing the papers to Catherine. So you'll know what to do and when. Young people these days are so disorganized. Catherine took the sheets and glanced over them. What she saw stunned her with its audacity. It was a set of house rules for Catherine. Get up at 7 a.m., prepare breakfast. House cleaning, vacuum daily, dust, mop floors, do laundry every other day. Prepare lunch by 1:30 p.m., dinner by 7:00 p.m. Help me with my medications morning and night, back and leg massage before bed. See friends only with the mother-in-law's permission. Outings from the house to be approved in advance. Television. Watch only programs approved by the mother-in-law. The list went on for a page and a half and included points like not speaking loudly, not cooking spicy food, and not even wearing short skirts. Catherine slowly looked up at her mother-in-law. Is this a joke? What joke? Rose said, surprised. It's a normal schedule for a good daughter-in-law. Young people today have become so lazy. And you think I'm going to follow this? Catherine clarified. And what's wrong with it? The mother-in-law shrugged. You have to clean and cook anyway. I'll teach you how to do everything correctly. Catherine turned to Alex. And you approve of this? Alex hesitated, unsure what to say. On one hand, his mother's demands were excessive. On the other, he didn't dare contradict her. Well, maybe we can negotiate some points, he said uncertainly. Negotiate? Rose fumed. Alex, we already talked about this. You promised your wife would help me. Promised, Catherine repeated. When did you have time to promise? We just got married yesterday. We discussed this a month ago, Alex let slip, then realized his mistake and fell silent. So, you were planning my life even before the wedding? Assigning my duties without my input? The mother-in-law realized her son had said too much and quickly took the lead. Dear, don't you understand? I have serious health problems. My heart, my back, my blood pressure. I need constant help. Constant help, Catherine nodded. And yesterday at the wedding, you danced for 2 hours straight without getting tired. I have good days, Rose quickly excused herself. But it's rare. Usually, I'm bedridden. Bedridden, Catherine repeated and took out her phone. And yesterday at 11 p.m., when all the guests had left, what were you doing? Sleeping, of course, the mother-in-law replied. Well, it turns out you weren't. Catherine showed her the phone screen. Yesterday at 11 p.m., you were sending messages to your son. Everything went great. Come over tomorrow with your wife and we'll start the training process. Rose turned pale and glanced at her son. Alex looked down guiltily. Training process, Catherine repeated. Meaning, I need to be educated, tamed, as you wrote in your messages. Where did you get those messages? The mother-in-law asked, bewildered. A little bird told me, Catherine replied curtly. And now, both of you listen carefully. There will be no training process, and no servitude either. I'm filing for divorce and demanding the return of all stolen money. Divorce? Rose gasped. Who do you think you are, girl? You got married, you tough it out. If your husband tells you to go live with your mother-in-law, you go. I'm not toughing out anything, Catherine replied firmly. And I'm not moving anywhere. This is my condo. I'm the owner here. The mother-in-law turned to her son. Alex, are you going to let some little brat talk to me like that? Put her in her place. Alex looked at his wife uncertainly. Catherine, maybe we shouldn't be so drastic. Mom really needs help. One more word in favor of that plan, and you're out on the street with your mommy, Catherine warned. Alex fell silent, but Rose went on the offensive. Oh, you ungrateful girl. I accepted you into the family like a daughter. And you? You immediately showed your true colors. My true colors? Catherine smiled ironically. Your true colors are deceit and fraud. Faking an illness to get a free servant. I'm not faking. The mother-in-law fumed. Everything really does hurt. Then go to a doctor, Catherine advised. Get tests, take medication, and don't make cleaning schedules for your daughter-in-law. She's not going to a doctor, Alex intervened. She's afraid of tests. I'm not afraid. His mother snapped. It's just that those doctors don't understand anything. They say I'm healthy. Catherine looked at her husband with a triumphant expression. You hear that? The doctors say she's healthy. And you two were planning to turn me into a caregiver for a healthy person. Rose realized she had misspoken and tried to fix the situation. Doctors don't see everything. They're young, inexperienced. And I know myself best. Of course you do, Catherine agreed. And you know you don't need any medical help. You need a free housekeeper and cook. It's just not going to be me. She grabbed the bags with Alex's things and offered them to him. Take your stuff and get out of my house. Both of you. Catherine, Alex pleaded. Give me a chance to fix this. I'll get Mom a real caregiver, if necessary. It's too late, Catherine cut him off. You've shown who you really are. I don't need family like you. Rose stood up and walked to the exit. Let's go, Alex. We have nothing to do here. It seems we were wrong about this one. She seemed like a nice girl, but she turned out to be selfish. Selfish? Catherine repeated. It's selfish not to want to be deceived? Not to accept becoming a servant? It's selfish to refuse to help a sick person, the mother-in-law snapped. Sick? Catherine took out her phone and showed her the video recorded the night before at the wedding. Here are your dances, Rose. Alex grabbed the bags and headed for the exit. At the door, he turned around. Catherine, I'll wait for you to calm down. We can work things out. Don't hold your breath, she replied indifferently. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. When the door closed behind them, Catherine leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. What a nightmare. Less than 24 hours of married life and such discoveries. Thank goodness, it all came to light so quickly. Imagine what would have happened if she had gone along with their plan. The phone rang. It was her friend Paula. Hey, newlywed. How's the honeymoon? Hey, Catherine replied wearily. There's not going to be a honeymoon. I'm getting a divorce. What? What happened? Catherine briefly told her friend what had happened. Paula listened, occasionally crying out in astonishment. What a pair of scumbags, she fumed. And how did you not notice anything before? What was there to notice? He played the role of the ideal fiancé, and they meticulously hid everything else. Well, no matter, her friend encouraged her. Thank God it all came out quickly, or you would have been living a miserable existence with them. You're telling me, Catherine agreed. Now the important thing is to handle the divorce properly and get my money back. After the call, she sat down at her computer to research divorce and division of assets. A tough battle awaited her, but she was ready. No one was going to turn her into their servant. No one was going to control her life. And somewhere on the other side of the city, Alex was explaining to his mother that the plan had failed and that they would now have to find other ways to solve their problems. The first week after kicking out Alex and his mother, Catherine spent in a strange state. On one hand, she felt relief at no longer having to pretend or play the role of a happy bride. On the other, she felt bitterness for her shattered hopes and illusions. She had taken vacation time for the honeymoon, and now those days were passing slowly and sadly. Alex called daily, asking to meet, promising to fix everything. Catherine didn't answer his calls. What was there to talk about? Everything had already been said. She asked her friend Paula to find her a good family lawyer. Hey, are you sure you want to get a divorce? Paula asked her during their meeting at a coffee shop. Maybe he really will change. Men can be very stupid sometimes, especially when it comes to their mothers. Paula, did you see that list of demands? Catherine replied, exhausted. It specified who I should associate with, what TV shows to watch, and how to dress. That's not stupidity, it's a whole system of control, planned in advance. Yeah, you're right, the friend agreed. Then it's definitely not worth staying with them. By the way, I found you a lawyer. Meredith Hill, she's very experienced. You can see her tomorrow. The next day, Catherine went to the law firm. Meredith turned out to be a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a professional demeanor. So, the marriage lasted 1 day, she noted after examining the documents. That's quite a record. Usually, people try to save the relationship for at least a month. In this case, there was nothing to save, Catherine explained. It turned out my husband married me with the goal of getting a free servant for his mother. Meredith listened attentively to the story, asking clarifying questions from time to time. The situation is unpleasant, but legally it's not very complicated, she summarized. It's a very short-term marriage with no children. The property is yours. The only issue is getting the money back from the joint account. We'll need proof that you were the one who deposited it. I have the proof. Catherine handed her the folder with bank statements. All the transfers are documented. Perfect. One more question. Are you sure you know everything about your husband? These kinds of scams rarely happen just once. Catherine grew thoughtful. What if it wasn't the first time? She remembered her meeting with Lucy Nash, who had introduced herself as Alex's ex-wife. Meredith, is there any way to check someone's marital history? To find out how many times they've been married? Yes, it's possible, the lawyer nodded. But official requests take time. It's faster to hire a private investigator. I have a trusted professional, Frank Miller, a very competent man. And won't that be too expensive? Catherine hesitated. Believe me, it's better to spend a little money now than to deal with the consequences for a long time. If your husband is a con artist, the more we know about him, the easier the divorce and the recovery of the money will be. That same afternoon, Catherine met with the investigator. Frank Miller turned out to be a middle-aged man of discreet appearance, but with a very attentive gaze. Alex Thompson, he repeated, writing down the details. Date of birth. Last known address. Catherine told him everything she knew about her husband. The information turned out to be not much for 7 months of a relationship. Alex didn't usually talk much about his past. Interesting, the detective murmured. Usually, people share more about themselves. All right, I'm on it. I'll have results in 3 or 4 days. Catherine went home and tried to occupy herself with her usual chores. The condo seemed too quiet after the recent turmoil. She turned on the TV, but couldn't concentrate on any program. Her thoughts kept returning to Alex and his strange behavior. The next day at work, her colleagues peppered her with questions about the honeymoon. Catherine briefly explained that the trip had been cancelled for family reasons. No one pried for details. At the bank, they knew how to respect employees' private lives. However, her department head, Mr. Daniels, came to see her at lunchtime. Catherine, I have to ask you a somewhat delicate question. Your husband called yesterday to inquire about your salary. He said he was planning the family budget. Catherine's blood ran cold. And what did you tell him? Nothing, of course. It's confidential information. But I found the call strange. Spouses usually discuss these things with each other, not by asking third parties. Thank you for letting me know, Catherine thanked him. We're going through a difficult period in our relationship. I understand, the boss nodded. If there are more calls, let me know. We take these situations very seriously. In the evening, Catherine called the investigator. Frank, can you speed up the investigation? New circumstances have arisen. I'm already on it, Frank replied. I've found some interesting information. We can meet tomorrow morning. At the meeting, the investigator placed several folders on the table. Your husband is, to put it mildly, quite an interesting character. Let's start with the main thing. He's been married more than once. How many times? Catherine asked tensely. Officially, 3 times. Unofficially, possibly more. Frank opened the first folder. First marriage, 2012. The wife, Tara Brooks, a nurse. Divorced after 2 years. The reason stated in the documents. Irreconcilable differences. And in reality? Catherine inquired. I spoke with Tara. Same pattern. Wedding, demand to care for the sick mother-in-law, transformation into a domestic servant. She put up with it for 2 years and then fled. The investigator opened the second folder. Second marriage, 2015. Lucy Nash, an accountant. Divorce finalized in 2018. That's the woman who warned me. Catherine exclaimed. Exactly. By the way, she asked me to send her regards and to tell you she's not surprised by how things turned out. And the third marriage? The detective became serious. This is where it gets most interesting. Third marriage, 2019, Betty Owens, a retail clerk. And you know what? The divorce hasn't been finalized yet. Catherine was speechless. So, he married me while he was still married to another woman? That's right. Technically, your marriage is null and void. But this is actually beneficial. The annulment process is simpler than a divorce. And where is this Betty now? She went back to her parents' house in another state. She also couldn't stand the wonders of life with her husband and his mother. But legally, she's still married to him. Catherine fell silent, dismayed, processing the information. And that's not all, the detective continued. I checked the property records. The apartment in Queens where Rose lives actually belongs to Alex. He bought it 3 years ago. He bought it? Catherine was surprised. But she told me it was her apartment, that she inherited it from her husband. A lie. What's more, the purchase deed states that the apartment was acquired for rental purposes. Meaning, it was planned as a source of income from the very beginning. The detective took out other documents. And here's the most interesting part. Your husband has significant debts to the bank. A $20,000 loan with a 4-month delinquency. The bank is threatening to take him to court. $20,000, Catherine whispered. But he told me he had a stable job and zero debt. He has a job, but his salary isn't great. And he took out the loan to buy that apartment for his mother. It seems he was counting on quickly finding a wife to help him pay it off. Catherine felt her head spin. And what about his mother? What about Rose? The detective smiled bitterly. That's another story entirely. Rose Miller is not his mother. What? Catherine jumped in her chair. His real mother passed away 10 years ago. This woman is his accomplice. Her real name is Rose Vance, 56 years old. She has a criminal record for fraud. She served 2 years of probation. It can't be, Catherine whispered. What's more, they've been living together for 5 years. Not as mother and son, but as a couple. The whole sick mother act is a trick to lure women into a trap. Catherine slumped into the chair. The scale of the deception surpassed her wildest guesses. So, it was all a lie. Absolutely all of it. I'm afraid so, the detective replied sympathetically. They are professional scammers. Alex seeks out single women with good incomes and property, courts them, and marries them. Then Rose plays the role of the sick mother-in-law, who needs care. The wife becomes their free assistant and, in the process, the one who finances their life. And what happens when the woman starts to resist? It depends. Some endure for years, others escape quickly. But they get money from all of them one way or another. The detective gathered the documents. I have the contact information for all his ex-wives. You can talk to them. They will corroborate the pattern. It will be useful for the trial. Catherine took the folders and stood up slowly. Thank you. Now I know who I've been dealing with. At home, she carefully studied the collected materials. The picture was terrifying. Alex and Rose operated like a well-oiled team of con artists. He seduced, she played the part of the decrepit old woman. Together, they fleeced naive women. The phone rang. It was Alex. This time, Catherine answered. Yes? Catherine, finally. I was so worried. We need to talk. Talk? She repeated coldly. About what? About how you've been deceiving me since the first day we met? I haven't deceived you. I just didn't tell you everything at once. Not everything, Catherine smirked. For example, you forgot to mention that you're still married to Betty Owens. Silence on the other end of the line. Where did you get that? Alex whispered finally. And you also forgot to tell me that your mom isn't your mother, but your lover and your partner in crime. Catherine. Listen to me. No, you listen to me, she interrupted. Tomorrow, I'm filing for an annulment of the marriage and demanding you return all the stolen money. And I'm also turning this evidence over to the police to investigate your criminal activities. You have no right. Alex shot back. That's slander. I have every right, Catherine replied calmly. I have all the documentation and the testimonies of your ex-wives. Let the judge decide. She hung up the phone and blocked Alex's number. She never wanted to hear from him again. The next day, Catherine went to see the lawyer with the new material. Meredith examined the documents and let out a whistle. Wow, what a case we've got. This is a whole organized criminal gang. So what do we do now? We file for an annulment of the marriage. It will be quick and straightforward. We demand compensation for damages, and of course, we go to the police with a fraud complaint. And they won't try to run? They'll try, of course. But we have their address, their documents, and the victims' testimonies. They'll eventually be found. The process to get the marriage annulled took just 3 weeks. The judge, after examining the evidence of bigamy, issued the ruling without a moment's hesitation. Alex did not appear at the hearing, he apparently preferred to stay out of sight. Simultaneously, the case for damages proceeded. The bank documents clearly showed that all the disputed sums had been contributed by Catherine from her personal accounts. The court ordered Alex to return the full amount of the stolen money. A month later, news came from the detective in charge of the fraud case. Alex and Rose had been arrested while trying to orchestrate a new scam. This time, their victim was supposed to be a retired widow with a one-bedroom condo in downtown Manhattan. They were already looking for a fourth wife, the inspector told Catherine. I got to talk to a wonderful woman. It was her neighbors who warned her that the new boyfriend seemed suspicious. And what are they facing now? With the number of victims, 3 to 4 years in prison each. Or maybe more if we find other affected parties. Catherine sighed with relief. Justice had been served. Alex returned the money quickly, it was clear he didn't want to worsen his legal situation. To do so, he had to sell that 2-bedroom apartment, but that was no longer Catherine's problem. 6 months later, Catherine was sitting in the same coffee shop where she had once met Lucy Nash. Only this time, another woman was sitting across from her. Tara Brooks, Alex's first wife. You know, I'm so glad they finally got caught, Tara was saying. After the divorce with me, they became more cautious, acted more professionally. You were the first one who managed to stop them. I guess I was lucky to realize in time who I was dealing with, Catherine replied humbly. It wasn't just luck, Tara countered. You are a strong woman. I put up with it for 2 years, and Lucy for 3. And you stood up to him from the very first moment. After that meeting, Catherine walked around the city for a long time, reflecting on everything that had happened. Yes, she had lost faith in love and marital bliss, but in return, she had saved her self-respect and her independence. And perhaps that was worth more than any relationship. Her condo welcomed her with its usual silence, but now that silence didn't feel oppressive. It was the silence of freedom, not loneliness. Catherine made herself a cup of tea, put on her favorite music, and sat down at her computer. She had had the idea to write an article about her experience for a women's magazine. Maybe it would help other women avoid falling into similar traps. How to spot a con artist in a relationship, she typed as the title and began to write. And somewhere, in a state prison, Alex was complaining to his cellmate about the ungrateful woman he had run into, still not understanding why no one sympathized with his misfortunes. For her part, Rose, in the women's block, also complained about how young people today don't respect their elders, and she also couldn't understand why she had been put in jail when, in the end, she was just looking for someone to take care of her. But their time for games was over. Justice, even if delayed, had done its job. As for Catherine, she had started a new life, free of illusions about Prince Charming, but armed with a firm belief in her own abilities. And that was much better than any fairy tale.